turning that into fuel and refusing to
Mhm.
fall in line with what society thinks you should look like when you're parenting, or when you're, whether it's after a divorce or whatever that is. What God would tell me is that you cannot live a reactive life. You have to always show up authentically the person I made you out to be. So if you bring me anger, frustration, fear, and all of that, and I respond with the same thing you're giving me, then in my mind, I'm like, okay, now you're not being who God made you to be. So I'm going to
Yeah.
need you to pull that back and do it again. You know what I
Yep.
mean?
Welcome to the Andrea Engstrom Show for bold women in business. We are passionate about helping you break through to your next level of abundance, success, and freedom so that you can create the life you desire and inspire others to do the same. I'm your host, Andrea Engstrom, and I'm here with my gorgeous co-host, Brenda Stroud. Hey, Brenda.
Hey, girl. Hey.
All right. Well, we've just been having a really good conversation. I feel like we should have hit record a long time ago, but we've been talking about how your breaking point can become building blocks, and the stories of our life that can either keep us stuck or actually become the thing that propels us forward. And so, Brenda, you've got a big story, and I got a big story too, but I just want to dig in on like what's on your heart to dig into this topic today.
I often think about the journey that I've traveled. I don't know. Most of you may not know that I was a teenage mother. When I graduated from high school, I was 5 months pregnant with my amazing son. I was first in my family to become a teenage mother. My mother was battling cancer, so she wasn't as present as she could have been because of her own health. So I was somewhat clueless as to what I was doing when I got pregnant with my son. It changed my life, though. It basically changed the timeline of me going to college. I ended up staying home and going straight to work. I was so amazed at that experience, and I really leaned on God at the time, because I was like, okay, God, I don't know, but somehow I knew.
Mhm.
And I had to give the credit, to Jesus Christ, in reference to how I was able to pivot as quickly as I needed to as a teenage mother. I went to went to work for the Department of Defense, then got a great job with the post office, and then became a police officer. The whole time I was raising Brandon as a single parent, and he was watching me.
Mm.
And I was mindful of the fact that he was watching me, but and he just turned into an amazing young man. I mean, when I was raising him, and he was a little fella. I always called him the little man, because he was always around adults, and so
Yeah.
we would have these adult conversations and talking about all of his little feelings. And he just, when he graduated from high school, he had already met his wife, and his father was in the racing industry. So he was always at the track. Now, I didn't necessarily always agree with that.
Yeah.
No, I didn't, because his father had one view about, education, and I had another. So Brandon would leave school on a Thursday to go to the race with his dad. To the point where he almost got held back because he was missing so many classes. But that fueled his fire. He was at least probably about 12 years old when he started going to the track. That became his passion. So when
Mm.
he graduated from high school, instead of going off to a 4-year college, he wanted to go to a high performance tech school that dealt with auto mechanics, and I let him go. And now he is in the racing industry as a tuner and a crew chief, and he travels all over the world. He won a Wally last weekend, and a Wally
Woo!
is an NHRA trophy when they win a race. He has won so many Wallies, and he still won't give me one, but I just love. I am so proud of him. And when I think about how we started, I'm only 18 years older than him. So we kind of grew up together. But
Yeah.
to be able to share this, exciting news in reference to my son, who is now married with 2 amazing children, that is nothing but the grace of God. Now, a lot of people would have been discouraged by becoming a teenage mother, and especially during those times. This was in the 80s.
Yeah.
So I was getting that dialogue from people like, how are you going to do this? Is it's going to be so hard? It was really a lot of negative energy that I was getting from the adults around me at the time, that God was able to allow me to use that as fuel.
Mm-hmm.
So anytime somebody said, "Oh, you're not going to be able to do that," or "That's not going to be possible," "You're not going to be able to go to college," and so on and so forth, I use that as fuel. So much so that yes, I did go to work, but then in 2000, I graduated with 2 degrees, and
Wow.
I wanted my son to see me go across the stage, to see me walk across the stage. And he did. So that was one of the things, the very first time that I was able to use an experience to kind of fuel my future.
Yeah. Yes.
It
Oh,
was a
girl.
blessing. Yes, a blessing.
Woo! Well, big shout out to Brandon for his latest Wally Award. That's incredible. And also just such a testament to, and I love the story that you shared that like you didn't really want him to go, but you let him go. And because there's a lot of parents that will say, because I didn't get to do things right, you're going to do things exactly how I say you're going to do things. And so even just your ability to let him pursue his passion and to support him in doing that, because the things that we experience in our life, sometimes we will take those experiences and assign meaning to them and then put expectations on our children
Absolutely.
that hold them back or that stifle their growth and abilities. Or in some cases, we think we're doing the right thing, but in reality, we're putting our own limitations on them, and then it becomes their new limitations
Right.
in a different way. And then they develop stories about that. And I'm always disappointing my parents. And so I love that story of, it's truly like a redemption story to me. And it's
Yeah.
like these things in my life that were hard, I was able to use those as fuel
Yes.
to move me, to propel me forward. And we'll use fuel because that's our racing term too. Like it's a
That's
connected
right.
to the racing industry. But I love also that like your desire was to allow him to see you succeed and
Yeah.
win and be that
Yeah.
example for your kids too. So beautiful.
I mean, I remember the day when because it was my desire for him to go to a 4-year college, because I was able to identify with him at a very young age that he had a mind of an engineer.
Yeah.
He used to draw these cars and do all these other things. And I'm like, you need to go to school for engineering. And I just remember the day when God said, I didn't tell you to tell him that. That ain't his story.
Oh, girl.
And I mean, it was plain as daylight, because he brought this man from high school, that someone came to his high school talking to them about this high performance mechanic school that was in Virginia Beach.
Huh.
And he dragged this man to my house to tell me about this program. And in that moment, God was like, this is his life. Let
Mm.
him go.
Oof.
And in that moment, I'm like, all right, Jesus. And
Yeah.
I hear you. I hear you. And I told Brandon, okay, Brandon, we're gonna go ahead and do a tour. This is your life. If this is what you want to do, I'm going to support you. And that
Yeah.
was one of the, probably one of the first times I really had to surrender and remember that this was not my life. This was his life. And
Yeah.
I just, and from that point forward, I've supported him. I've encouraged him. I would go to the race like he was the driver. Now he's on the crew team. At that time, he was on a crew member. And I would go to the race like he was the driver. And they're like, your mom is here. You doing that? Yes, I'm here. But the one thing that he was able to do, because when he was younger, he went to the track with his father, and they were amateur. He was in amateur racing. So he would go to the track with his father. But once Brandon got hired by the team that he's on now, and he became the boss, he then hired his father. And now they're
Wow.
both on a professional race car team together.
That's so cool.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, that's so great.
Awesome.
That's so great. It's so funny because our stories are different, but some people don't know this about me, but I was a different kind of teenage mom. I was a young bride. I got engaged when I was 17, married 3 weeks after my 18th birthday, and was pregnant within 3 months and had my first baby at 19 and my second baby at 20. And girl, I was crying in my pillow every night because my marriage was so broken. And I thought babies would fix it. And I just, and I thought that there was something wrong with me. If I were enough, God would heal my marriage and my husband would love me. And, that marriage did not work out. And I was raised in such a conservative Christian family. Like my husband makes fun of me because we were the skirt. He's like, y'all wore like long jumpers and dirty sneakers, didn't you? And I was like, yeah, kind of. Like we were the like conservative homeschool family that like we wore long skirts because we were basically in a cult for a period of time in homeschooling. And we had very, very strict expectations of what, what a good Christian woman looks like. And I did not feel like I fit into that mold and never felt like I could meet the expectations. And so, and I was never supposed to be someone who got divorced. My parents have been married, my whole life and, did their very best to raise me right. And so when my marriage was ending, I felt like I was broken. And I believed that, I told myself a story that I am not worthy of love, that I am not worthy of a healthy relationship, that I'm not capable of being a good wife, and that I'm not enough. And, and I just want to give glory to God because of the healing that he did in my life. And I thought I would never get married again. And here I am, a single mama with, a 5 and 6 year old little girls. And I met this amazing man, and who it is funny because he has this painting on our wall in the living room. And when I met him on our first date, he said, I just got to tell you, this is first date conversation, right? He says, I just got to tell you, there's this painting of my grandpa. It is really big. And it must hang, prominently in any home that I live in. And I was like, honey, I got 2 kids. Your painting, it will be just fine. And this is like first date conversation, right? And and I was just, I was real honest with him. I'm like, I don't know if I can see myself ever getting married again. But within days, I was picturing a beautiful future with him and, imagining how beautiful our children someday would be. And like God completely changed my heart there and got a hold of me and just redeemed my spirit and my soul and gave me love again. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for that. And what I've found is that the lessons that I learned through that have made me the partner and the wife that I am today. That it's not that I am broken and incapable of love. It is like I chose to take that breaking point and turn it into the building blocks, because we get to choose whenever we're in a situation and something happens and it doesn't go the way we thought it would. And we find ourselves having to figure out a way that we can decide if it means that we are broken and not worthy and can't do it because of those things that have happened, or we can decide that has equipped us to handle the next chapter of our life.
Right. Now, do you believe or do you feel that your experience of your first marriage made it possible for you to identify your second husband, to create your second marriage? You hadn't gone through that. Do you think you would have been able to recognize what you saw in Josiah and what you now have in your relationship now?
Yeah, I think what it did was it showed the most important thing that it showed me was not how to pick different. It showed me how to show up different.
Okay.
Because what I've learned is that I have to figure out how to take ownership of the things that I can and not not look to that other person to be my everything, to fill all the places in my life that, their job is not to plug all the holes for me.
That's right.
And to try to put them in a place that only God can fill. And so, I think I did learn a lot from what I want in a partner from that first relationship, but I also learned how I'm going to show up and what my relationship with God needs to look like for us to have a healthy relationship as a husband and wife. And that was probably the biggest shift. The other thing, this is one of the biggest lessons I learned from that first marriage was when we decided to end the marriage, there was something in my brain that clicked that said, you need to choose to be kind.
Mhm.
Because as our marriage was going through turmoil, my default programming was to lash out and have a sharp tongue and unkind words and like hurt people, right? And I was
Right.
a hurt person hurting a person. And so when we made the decision to part ways, I made a decision to be kind and to treat that relationship more like a business relationship moving forward. We got 2 girls we got to raise until they're 18 and beyond. And so if this is going to be healthy for them, then I need to show up different. I need to choose different. And so that decision to be kind also changed, I think, how I showed up in my next relationship, because I learned what my default. Just because something was my default in my programming doesn't mean I have to settle into that for the rest of my life.
Right.
And
Right.
and I when I say my default in my programming, part of what I mean by that is like, um, you know, my mom and dad have been married for a long, long time. And my mom has a sharp tongue and
Mhm.
she says it how it is.
Yeah.
And I just like, I think adopted some of those behaviors that were, um, it's just not how I want to show up.
Right.
And she's had a lot of healing for things in her life, and God is good and, is still working on all of us.
Mhm.
But when you are raised in an environment and around people that treat each other a certain way, we can either learn from that or we can repeat it.
Right. That's right.
And so I think what I recognized is what needed to change in me, even more than, what I was looking for in somebody else. I recognized what needed to change in me for me to attract the person that I want.
Right.
And also to show up and be healthy with that person. Because I think I got married so young that I didn't have that skill set developed yet too.
Mhm. Mhm. Well, in hearing you share that experience, it makes me think of um, um, the conscious decision I had to make
Mhm.
as a parent when, in me raising Brandon. His
Yeah.
father showed up one way, and I was forced to show up another way because I was actually raising him. His father would come in and visit, and so so we had those moments of promises, broken promises. I'll be there to pick you up. Then he didn't come, and then I would have to, take the time to share with Brandon, like, okay, something must have came up. Let's go out and do something, and your dad will see you next time or whatever. But I
Mm.
made a conscious decision to play a positive role
Yeah.
in not only my son's life, but in the relationship that he was going to have with his father, because I didn't want to hinder that. So it required me to make a conscious decision on how I was going to show up to make sure that because I became a teenage mom, that he didn't suffer because his parents were
Yeah.
in 2 separate houses. So,
Yeah.
and hearing you describe what, the decisions that you made, it was like you made a conscious decision to approach it from a different perspective than what society thinks or what they impose on us and what you should be doing, because your reaction, society has a certain way that you should be reacting to certain actions. and
Yeah.
i and I was like, I'm just not going to do that. So I always made sure that even if I had to step back or if I had to come second, I always made sure that he had an active relationship with his dad, and that when his father matured and came around and was ready to show up the way he needed him to, he had the space to do that. That required me to
Yeah.
decide who's going to be, and I hate to say it like this, but at the time, this is what my thought process was: who's going to be the adult in the room? It must be me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think one of the other decisions that I made that I'm really grateful for too was I never wanted my children to hear me speak
Mhm.
ill or disrespectfully to or about their dad.
That's right.
And that doesn't happen in everybody's house.
No, it's a conscious decision.
Um, yeah, it's a decision. It's a decision. And so it's one of those things where we cannot control other people. We can only control ourselves and our attitude and our words.
That's
We
right.
cannot control what happened to us. We can control how we respond to it.
That's right.
And
That's
all
right.
of us get that decision. And there's, and of course, like that's just the beginning of the story. There's so many things that have happened along the way for each of us in our lives that we get to decide how we're going to respond. We get to decide what we're going to do with that information and that set of experiences and the setbacks,
Yeah.
and decide what we're going to do moving forward. And
Yes.
in some cases, I think, and I talk to so many women who about their life experiences and what has led to where they are today. And we can either decide that those things define us and we can behave as if our past defines us, or we can learn from it and decide that we're going to choose who we decide to be moving forward with that information of that. Instead of saying that I am a victim, to say I am an overcomer. I am
Yeah.
someone who overcomes hard things.
Yeah.
And I know that what that taught you about your past is, the things of your past have taught you that you can handle hard things.
That's right. That's
That
right.
was one of the biggest things that I learned about myself when I got sober 6 years ago, was that I can do hard things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I had no idea how tough I am.
Mhm.
So when
That's
we
right.
come up on obstacles in business and
Yeah.
real estate and, team and all the things that we're dealing with, there's something in my brain that goes, I got this. I can do
Right.
hard things. And it's not that I don't cry. Sometimes I don't cry because things are
Girl.
hard. But I also know that the things that were the greatest challenges in my life have actually been the things that set me up for the greatest next successes in my life. Even if
Yes.
I don't even know what all those things are, but girl, I'm ready.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm with you. I mean, it became the fuel.
Yes.
Even as we talk about, the paths that we took parenting, and that's such a big part of my life is parenting my son, and the unique way that God allowed me to show up, to the point where when I would share with other people the journey that I've experienced, as a parent, and then my son's father had other children. And I became best friends with Brandon's brother's mother, and even now we sister girls, because
Yeah.
in society tells you shouldn't get along. At that time, people were like, "I'm surprised you all even get along." I'm like, This is what you got to understand. Her son and my son are brothers. Therefore, we are sisters. I need to make sure my son has a relationship with his brother, and that he doesn't see conflict, but that he sees love. So I looked at her as another person that was going to love on my son, and I welcomed them all. Okay. So really, it's being able to take what society thinks should look one way and use it as fuel.
Yes.
So during the holidays, and I didn't want Brandon to feel like he had to choose half day of Christmas there and the other half day there. And what did I do? You can have him Christmas, Thanksgiving, and the holidays. I can have him the day after. That way, he gets to be loved on by both families.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's so that turning that into fuel and refusing to
Mhm.
fall in line with what society thinks you should look like when you're parenting, or when you're, whether after a divorce or whatever that is. You
Mhm.
have to. What God would tell me is that you cannot live a reactive life. You have to always show up authentically, the person I made you out to be.
Yeah.
So if you bring me anger, frustration, fear, and all of that, and I respond with the same thing you're giving me, then in my mind, I'm like, okay, now you're not being who God made you to be. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna need you to pull that back and do it again. You know
Yep.
what I mean?
Yep.
That's the
Yep.
reminder.
Yeah.
And that's the example I wanted to set for my son.
Yes, I love that. And I can so relate to that. And what I would call it is deferring my own
Yeah.
um what I would say, like what some people will say, well, it's your right
Yeah.
to have it things a certain way. And when my girls were very little, like we had family traditions where we'd go to their dad's mom's house for Christmas Eve. She always hosted Christmas Eve at her house, and then we would do something with my family for brunch the next day or something, or we would do it at a different time. And so when we got divorced and my girls were little, I got to tell you, I have not spent a Christmas Eve with my daughters since they were 4 and 5 years old, because I said, I value your family's traditions, and I'm going to defer what I think is my right, or what I want to allow them to continue to have those beautiful family traditions with his family. And then I'll just get them the next day. And
Mhm.
and so most families will say, well, every other year we get it this way and this way and this way. And I just said, you know what? I just want my kids to have some stability of traditions. And if your family has a beautiful tradition, let's keep that. And
Yeah.
then we'll figure it out on the other side, because it's for me, it was more about how can I be kind
Yeah.
and treat. And I always said, I want to treat them the way that I want to be treated. And y'all, it worked out, because because I was willing to defer in those moments. And what I was seeing, like, I want beautiful things like that for my kids. And I'm okay if it's not I'm okay if I can't be there, because
Yeah. That's right.
that's the decision. And so to be able to recognize that that's going to be the best thing for them, and to set my pride and my rights aside for that, those moments, and then create something different and special on our own.
Yeah.
It's hard to sometimes think, I'm going to put my own, what I deserve, I've got to have it my way or no way. And instead look at what's going to be the best, because I did that, he was also willing. When I asked for something special, he was like, yeah, whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he didn't want to change the good things that I was saying yes to for him. You see what I'm saying? And I know
Absolutely.
that it's a give and take. But it worked out, because that decision worked out. So,
And I know in my scenario, it didn't seem like it was so much of a sacrifice as much as it was a gift.
yes.
That I am making sure that it could be, well, let me backtrack. One thing we have in common is that we were both raised with both of our parents in the house.
Yeah.
And the experience was a family, experience, holidays or whatever. And I wanted to make sure that Brandon had that same experience. And even if that means that I needed to put their needs first, and their needs at that time, especially when they're young, they need their fathers.
Yeah.
They need to be in that presence. And whether or not they show up the way you think they should and all that kind of stuff, that's not my call to make. And I recognize that at a young age. I'm talking about, I was 18. I had just turned 18 when I had Brandon, and I was able to recognize the importance of making sure that I create space for him to show up however God made him to be in that moment, and for him to, and for Brandon to have that relationship with him and have those experiences, because that was important to me. Holidays, being with the families, with my sisters, brothers and sisters, or cousins or whatever, that was so important to me and very memorable. And I wanted to make sure that I did my part to make sure that he had those experiences, which it sounds like the same thing you did with your children, as well. So it wasn't hard to do.
Yeah. 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 And, I want to transition to talking about some things that we've also experienced in the next chapters of our life, and the other challenging things that now we can say, okay, this could either break me, or it's going to make me better. It's either going to, I'm either going to break down, or I'm going to build from here.
That's right.
And so, and I know both of us have had moments crying on the phone to each other about what's going on.
It's the release.
I'm freaking out. No, we're not freaking out, but it's, but girls, like we were talking about stuff when we're 18, 19 years old. And the reality is that life, like, hard things are still happening.
Yes.
It is not all smooth sailing. Right.
It is not.
Yes.
I mean, the journey, but I do think those experiences have prepared us to be able to move through what we're experiencing now.
Yeah.
Like when you have those moments when he's like, can I just talk to you? Can we just talk about it? And, I had a crying spell just a few weeks ago, because sometimes it's just hard.
Yes.
So, and for me, I think it's a great thing to cry and let it out, because that means I'm not holding it in, creating health issues and all the things, but then I'm actually releasing the tears, and then it clears my mind. So then we can get down to business. Like, okay, let's talk about this thing. Let's see what the options are, or what I'm doing, that what I'm not doing, or what I need to do more of. All of those things have to happen, and I think that our experiences have made it possible that we know that that's healthy.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's healthy.
Yeah. And I think I told you the other day when we were talking, I was like, girl, I think I've cried more ugly tears over real estate and business than I ever have over a man.
Girl, me too. This last year has been rough on the sister. I'm
Yes.
telling you, it
Oh,
really
goodness.
has been
Yeah.
rough.
Well, I would say like, I think it's been a few years, but like I think in those moments, those are also the times that I can point to where my faith has grown the most.
Yeah.
When I feel like in a moment where I don't know how this is going to work out. I don't feel like I got it. And I just cry out, God, what am I supposed to do? Give me direction, work this thing out. And sometimes it takes talking like talking to 8 different lenders to work it out
Girl.
in order to get it.
Yeah.
And so we don't just sit in a puddle and cry. We pick up the phone and we make another call. We keep moving forward, but it's important, I think, sometimes to like have somebody to talk to about it.
Absolutely. It's a
Yeah.
cleansing to me. I think of it as a cleansing.
Yeah.
I don't frown on the fact that I cry about things sometimes. I think that's healthy.
Yeah.
So once I get it all out, I feel fresh, and I don't feel like I'm being weighed down by holding it in,
Yeah.
and then having it rolling around in my head over and over again. But to know to call your sister girl,
Mhm.
call it whatever you're experiencing. You always have a certain sister girl you can talk to about certain things. And I think that's important in order for us to be able to kind of reposition ourselves and continue to move forward. So
Mhm.
just because you're faced with difficulties does not mean that's the end, or that means you've done something wrong.
Yeah.
As a real estate investor, for me, I'm going to speak about it from a real estate standpoint. We're in an industry, or working in an industry that's very fluid, that's constantly changing. The market goes up and down. It's like a pendulum.
Yep.
So, and so nobody says we're going to have all the answers, but you got to have the skill set to know what to do when you're hitting those bumps in the road, when you're having a difficult time refinancing, when you have all this equity sitting in your property and you can't seem to get to it. That's frustrating.
Yeah.
That is really frustrating. So that's part of, I know that for me here recently, that's been part of my journey, but I know that I am more than capable of working this out with prayer, the grace of God. I know I'm not in the wrong place. I know I am where I'm supposed to be. But this is part of the journey, is being able to kind of figure it out, or wait on God to show me, because there are so many. When it comes down to real estate, there are so many freaking lenders out there. Just because 1 or 2 or 10 say no does not mean that the 12th one is not going to say yes, or the 15th
That's right.
one.
That's right. That's right. And I think sometimes too is like we have an expectation of how we think something is going to go.
Yeah.
And how we hope, and we think like you've put all the due diligence in, like we've planned out everything in such a way. And one of the things I appreciate so much about you is this mindset that if it doesn't go the way you hoped, we're going to pivot. It's going to be okay. Like, and you're one of those people that the way your brain works is there's a plan A, but then there's also a plan B, C, D, E, F. Like there's always a way to pivot. There's always a way to change. And for those of us that are, tend to want to be in control. And this is something that I'm growing in, because I think when we've been through hard things in our life, one of the greatest desires we have is to prevent hard things in the future. And so we could try to control every aspect. And when it doesn't work out the way that we planned it would, we can either get our panties in a wad and just sit and cry about it and throw our hands in the air and say, why me? Or we can get out our tools. We can call our sister, and we can call another lender, we can learn what we don't know. And it goes back to this idea, the power of I can. And I learned this idea from that prayer we pray in sobriety journey that says, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I think where a lot of us stay stuck is where we're focused on the things that we cannot change instead of focusing on the things that we can. What
Yes,
can
yes.
I do?
That's right. That's right. And I think also some people stumble over the fact that it's not working the way they want it to.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just like, and they tend to think that, oh my gosh, I failed, or all these negative things they tell themselves, and it could just be timing. You know,
Yeah.
outside of continuing to find a lender, it could be, wait a minute, just
Yeah.
wait a minute. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So being able to let ourselves off the hook just because things doesn't happen the way that we, thought it would, or we pictured it, or that it happened for this person over here or that person over there. It could be it could be about seasons too.
Mm-hmm.
So we just have to not be so hard on ourselves, but give ourselves the space, show ourselves grace, give ourselves permission to change our minds.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you just gotta just stand still. Just wait a second. Just wait 1 second. Have you ever been at a place where, for whatever reason something caused you to stumble and you stop for a second, and next thing you know, a big bus goes flying by?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Oh,
Yeah.
a bus-like experience, it's like, woo, thank the
Yeah.
Lord I tripped over that crack back there, or whatever that is. But we experience that in life all the time,
Mm-hmm.
all the time. So, so sometimes you just gotta just wait a minute.
Yeah.
Don't force it. Don't push it. None of that. Just wait a minute. I never thought that I would be 7 months into trying to refinance property, still standing here 7 months later, trying to find someone to refinance my property. And,
Right.
and the blessing in it all is that I have property to refinance.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
I know we're talking about our children and we're talking about business, but this can happen. You can use this thought process or these philosophies in every area of our lives, and it just applies.
Yes. Yes. I'm thinking back to that time. I think it was the second year that we started meeting in person with a mastermind group, and it was a bunch of us in real estate investing, and we were building multi-million dollar portfolios and doing amazing things. And I asked this question as we sat around we were going to do some goal setting. And I asked the question, what has prepared you for your next level of success? What are the experiences or accomplishments that have prepared you? And we went around the room, and there was maybe 20 of us there. And something happened that I did not expect. I expected, because this was a room of a lot of women with great accomplishments. We were moving and shaking and doing cool things. And I expected people to take this as an opportunity to not just to brag a little bit, but just to say, because I've done this, now I know I can do this. Right. And I just wanted to remind people, you're amazing. You've done amazing things. Sometimes we don't take a second to reflect back on the accomplishments that we've had. But something crazy happened. As we went around that circle, every single woman had written down a hard time, a big challenge, something that felt like it didn't work out the way they had expected it to. And they said, because I went through that hard thing, now I know I'm ready for my next level of success.
That's right.
So it is not the accomplishments of your life that prepare you to be ready for your next level of success. In fact, the most successful people in the room will tell you it was the obstacles that I went through, the hard times that I had to navigate. And because now I'm on the other side of it, I can tell you now I'm ready.
Yeah.
I wasn't ready before I experienced that, but I'm ready now.
That's right. That's right. And a lot of times it is, when you look back, you realize like, now I know why that happened. And now I have even more appreciation for it when you look back on it, and you see yourself come through it. So
yeah,
I remember that. I do remember that.
And I just, and I'm just reflecting on how many of those women today have chosen to take the things that they have learned, the obstacles that they have overcome, and use those now to be a blessing to other people.
Yes.
And be able to coach and train and mentor others because they've been through something challenging, and we're able to come on the other side and do something successfully that now the purpose, like we're not just driven, and I can say this across the board for almost every person in that room that was sitting there that day, they have taken that experience, their experiences, and now their focus is not just creating income, it is creating impact.
Yes.
And so I think one of the things that we don't always remember is that the hard things we are going through, the hard things we have been through, that the things that create our story can be of such value to others.
Yes.
And we can assign meaning to it, that it means that, you know, that those things that happened to us or that we've been through, that those mean something about us, that is a lie that we're believing, like, oh, that thing happened to me, so I must be easy to take advantage of by the contractor that ran off with my money, and so I'm never going to trust people again. Or we can turn that into, I overcame that challenge, and now I can help somebody else if they're going through it.
Right.
I can be how
to avoid it because of your experience. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that there, at some level, the things in our life that God has brought us through. And I love that scripture that says, like, what, you know, I think it was related to Joseph, that what Satan meant for evil, God used for good.
That's
and
right.
It wasn't that God made that bad thing happen to us. Right. It was that, you know, if the devil meant it for evil, God's going to use it for good. Watch this. Watch not today, Satan. Not today. Watch what God is going to do, and take that ugly, you know, scary part of our life and turn it into something that can be for his glory.
You know, and it's funny that you say that, because a lot of times that if I am really like struggling, or I am like running into obstacles and a lot of bumps in the road, I get excited, because that's telling me, okay, God is about to do something amazing, because Satan is throwing all of this and I'm, you know, ducking and dodging. I'm like, God is about to come through and offer up some blessings. So that in and of itself, I expect that if I run into so many obstacles, I expect, okay, God is right around the corner. He's preparing me for what's to come. So, you know, and I thank God that I'm able to process, you know, how he shows up in my life, at least, that I'm able to not let that be distracted by what Satan, in some cases, what Satan puts in my way. And sometimes God is like, I'm preparing you for what's to come, because I'm about to bless you all over, you know, the place. And that probably is part of what keeps me going, is knowing that God is always watched over me. He's always been a blessing in my life, even through those crying days, or those days when I don't feel like doing anything, or whatever that is, that God is always going to show up. Sometimes he's telling me, girl, sit down for a minute. You're doing too much. The only way I can set you down is to have you over there crying to your girlfriend on the phone.
Yeah. And I think sometimes also I like what you said earlier, that sometimes you know, when we're crying out to God, the answer is wait.
Yeah.
Wait on me. Be still and know that I am God. Wait. And, you know, and I also love that scripture that's in 1 Corinthians. It says, when I am weak, I'm going to boast in my weakness, because then he is made strong. He is strong where I am weak. And one of the things that I find is, like, when I try to do things in my own power, that's when I get all messed up.
Yeah.
That's when I get all discouraged, and like, it didn't work my way, and I had it all planned perfect, and now it's not happening. And it's in those moments of weakness that God shows up. He says, watch me.
That's
You
right.
thought, you thought you had it.
Sometimes he's just waiting for us to surrender it.
Yes.
Because, you know, and I was, you know, I have these little pictures of, like, God is trying to cook some food, or cook my life, and I got my hand in the pot, and he can't put the hood on, put the top on the pot. So he's like, get your hand out the pot. I'm cooking. You know what I mean? That's what you're not cooking. I'm cooking. Get your hand out the pot, girl. So that's what I envision a lot of times. Like, do I have my hand in the pot? You know what I'm saying? Instead of trying to do something, and I'm busy thinking I got the answer, and he's like, he gonna give you 5 minutes and put his hand at the pot, or else he gonna sit back and watch you bake your hand. Don't cook your own hand. You know what I mean? That to me is, you know, that causes me to pay attention to what am I doing that right now that I'm not supposed to do, but God is supposed to handle this? Why am I not trusting that he's got it?
Yeah.
So, so I often hear, girl, sit down. That's how you talk to me. Sit down, please.
Yes. I love that. There's this prayer that I learned, that one of my mentors, pointed me to, and it basically goes like this. Like when we're facing indecision and we don't know what to do, that what we pray is, God, give me intuition, inspiration, and an intuitive thought or an idea.
Yeah.
And then rest and wait for it to come.
That's right.
Because when we're trying to force our way and make it so, and I love for people to take bold action. I'm like, girl, let's get it. Let's get after it. Let's show up and do our thing. But when there's moments when we don't know what to do, that sometimes I think the answer is like, we've just got to surrender.
That's right.
We've got to just say, just pray that God will give us inspiration, an intuitive thought or an idea, and then relax and wait for it to come. Wait on him.
That's right.
Get your hand out the pot.
I can't close the lid because your hand in the pot.
That's right. Oh, I love it. I love it. Yeah. Well, Brenda, I love this conversation so much. I feel like we can talk all day, but let's give our listeners something that they can do to take bold action this week.
I think one of the things that they could possibly do is rest. Just take a minute and sit down. Even if it's just a day, an hour, rest. Yeah. Allow yourself to kind of center down so you can receive whatever God has for you. Just it's okay to rest.
Yeah. It's okay to rest. We got to give ourselves permission.
That's right.
Thank you so much. I love that. All right, sisters. Well, I've loved this conversation with Brenda. Thank you so much, Brenda. How can people get in touch with you if they want to learn more about how to work with you or do something with you?
You can go to my website, brendastroud.com. You can also email me at hello@brendastroud.com. And on all the social media, Facebook and Instagram is also my name, Brenda Stroud.
Beautiful, beautiful. And sisters, if you want support on your journey to grow your business, I want to invite you to register for one of my free workshops for women entrepreneurs at AndreaEngstrom.com. I specialize in helping women turn their story and the obstacles that they have overcome into a coaching program that can be of service to others in the world. And I would love to share with you how that works. So Brenda, thank you again for an amazing conversation.
Thank you for inviting me. I love sitting down chatting with you. We always talk about all kinds of things here in this room.
Yes. All right, sisters. Well, we just want to encourage you to show up to your life with tenacity, with boldness, and to take bold action and take time to rest.
That's right.
All right, sister. All right. Have an amazing rest of your week. Amazing conversation. Thank you, Brenda. We'll talk to everyone soon.
Bye.